Welcome back to Anderson DeLooper 360. We are here with Senior Analyst Dr. James Monty. Dr. Monty, what are we dealing with here? Is this a case about race? The shooting occurred several days ago. Shouldn't Zimmerman have been charged by now? Anderson, I absolutely think it has something to do with race. First of all, there was a 911 phone call that not only puts Zimmerman at the scene of the crime, but puts him as the murderer. Second, and more importantly, Zimmerman has confessed to killing Trayvon in a police report. So obviously he did the crime, but the reason he's not convicted, I don't know. I don't think they can wait any longer. They're going to have to arrest him at some point. His self-defense tactic is it's definitely made up. He did the crime, Anderson. He has to be charged. We are outside the Macomb County, Florida courthouse where the case against George Zimmermann is about to begin. The prosecutor, Jeremy Finch, is about to speak. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'd like to play for you the 911 phone call that George Zimmermann made on the night of February 24th, 1975. As you can see, George Zimmermann was the killer. Instead of approaching Martin, he acted courageously, saving the public from this mad dog. Come on, Zimmermann, how would you feel if someone shot you just on the basis of being suspicious? I'd like to call George Zimmermann to the stand, please. Raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. George, you say you were attacked by Trayvon Martin first, and you have evidence to prove it. Absolutely. There was blood everywhere. He attacked me from behind. Okay, Mr. Zimmermann, what I'd like you to do is to scream help into this phone. Objection! No reason to call an objection, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Finch, please proceed. Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Zimmermann, please do as I asked. Help! Help! Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as you can see, Zimmerman's voice in the phone is not that of the one we heard in the recording. As you can see, he was not defending himself against anything. He was attacking the young, innocent victim. I have one question, and one more question only, for Mr. Zimmermann, Your Honor. Mr. Zimmermann, is it true that you confessed to police that you killed Trayvon Martin? Yes, Mr. Finch, it is true that I confessed to police that I killed Trayvon Martin. However, it was in self-defense. Mr. Zimmermann, we have obviously proved that you are not defending yourself. We have proof that you attacked the young victim. How could you have possibly defended yourself when all we heard in the background was Trayvon yelling help? I have never heard of any attacker yell help when they're attacking someone, Mr. Zimmermann. I do not know, Mr. Finch. All I know is that I was attacked by Trayvon Martin, and I had no choice but to shoot him. I have my regrets, Mr. Finch. I believe you, Mr. Zimmermann, when you say that you have regrets. But regrets are not enough to save you from conviction. You killed a young victim, and that there is little hope for you, Mr. Zimmermann, because you did this. Especially when you cannot come up with a good defense. Your Honor, I have no further questions. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Finch. This court will now take a recess. Welcome to Anderson DeLooper 360. We have an exclusive interview with Mr. Jeremy Finch, the prosecutor in the Zimmermann trial. Mr. Atticus, what do you think your chances of getting conviction in this case are? To be honest, Anderson, I don't really know. We have very convincing evidence that he is guilty. However, as you know, it is 1975. People are still going to discriminate against Trayvon and believe that he attacked Mr. Zimmermann first. People need to start walking in others' shoes. Because how would you feel if someone shot you and somehow you knew that person got away with it? Race shouldn't matter here, Anderson. Someone killed someone else. In fact, my father, Atticus Finch, had a case that affected him deeply. He always told me to never be judgmental and to always look at everyone fairly. And while some people, actually a lot of people, may not agree with that now, it is advice that I take deeply to heart, and I always want others to do the same. I've heard that you had a choice in taking this case. Why did you decide to take the case if you knew the chances might be stacked up against you? I wanted to do the right thing. You see, Anderson, I think that this case might be done for before it even started, considering the fact that it is highly possible people will side with Mr. Zimmermann. But I think that doing the right thing is more important than siding with the maybe not so right majority. And Anderson, that is courage, not Zimmermann with his gun defending the public. Thank you, Mr. Atticus, for being here with us and providing your side of the story. Thank you, Anderson.
And Mr. Finch, would the prosecution like a final word?
Yes, Your Honor.
Carry on.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be brief. But I would like to use the remaining time I have with you to remind you that this case is not a difficult one. It requires no shuffling of complicated facts, but it does require you to be sure, like any other court case, beyond all reasonable doubt as to the guilt of the defendant. It is my hope that you have no doubt as to the guilt of Mr. Zimmermann. Pardon me. To begin with, this is an open and shut case, as simple as black and white. The defense has produced not a single piece of evidence to the effect that Mr. Zimmermann did not perform this horrible act. It is relied upon a self-defense excuse that is not even feasible. The defendant is guilty and Trayvon Martin was innocent of any wrongdoing. I have nothing but sadness in my heart for Trayvon's family and Trayvon himself, and want nothing but life in prison for this horrible fiend that has committed this horrible act, regardless if he is black, white, green, blue, or purple. I say he is guilty, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and while we do not know what motivated Zimmermann for sure, he has committed a crime. He has broken a code to which we are all bound. A code that, if broken, deems us unfit for society. Trayvon is the victim of a murderous act, and I ask the jury to pity him so much as to want to put the man who did this horrible crime in a jail cell. Trayvon was a quiet, friendly African American who was just walking home, carrying a bag of Skittles and a drink of Arizona iced tea. He was killed by a murderous white person. But I need not remind you of their appearances, ladies and gentlemen. We all need to figure out that not all white men tell the truth. Not all white men are moral, and not all white men are to be trusted. Because whites are not always right. Blacks are not all criminals. In fact, very few of them are. Ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Jefferson once said, a famous quote in a famous document, that all men are created equal. And why we don't take this to heart, I do not know. We will remind you, ladies and gentlemen, we are all human, and we are all one. I hope, ladies and gentlemen, that you review the evidence and convict this defendant to the jail cell he deserves. In the name of God, do your duty.
Thank you, Mr. Finch. Jury, you are now free to enter the deliberation room and determine your verdict.
We have breaking news. The jury is about to reveal their final decision in the case against George Zimmermann. Let's go there now.
Has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, we have, Your Honor. We, the jury, hereby find the defendant, George Zimmermann, guilty of second-degree murder. I chose the Trayvon Martin case not only because it's a case that we have all heard about, but also because there's a racial factor in the case. Just like in Mockingbird, people convicted Robinson very quickly. And on the same token, it's taken the courts a month and a half to even express interest in charging Zimmermann. The roles here are switched, but they both have very similar outcomes. They both favor the white person and discriminate against the black person. I choose to do so because that time period had a lot more racism than now. The year I put it in was still more recent than the time period To Kill a Mockingbird was in. And I also wanted to show that many years later, Atticus' son still has the same problem. I chose to have him as a prosecutor for two reasons. First, I wanted to give a glimpse into what became of Jem after the book. Second, and more importantly, I wanted to show that Jem did learn the lessons that Atticus taught him as the book suggested, and that he would apply them to his life. Atticus taught a few lessons throughout the book to his children. The specific ones I mentioned in the movie were to step in one's shoes. That was mentioned by the first speech that Jem gives, and later on at the end of the trial speech that he gave. He also shows courage. He knew that the result of the case could be corrupted by people's tendency to favor the whites, so he showed courage by taking the job anyway, even though he had a choice in the matter. In fact, this was a big part of Finch's interview with Anderson. Because it's what happened. However, more importantly, I think that the Trayvon case is somewhat already corrupted with racism. I mean, Zimmermann did confess to killing him, and you can hear him shooting Trayvon in the background. They favor his story perhaps because of race, and that's what I believe happened. Also, the same kind of thing happened in Mockingbird. The jury believed a drunk white and a white liar over a seemingly innocent black man. I thought that Atticus' speech was very heartfelt and sincere. It stood up for the equal rights of everyone, especially in the human institution known as the courtroom. I felt that I needed to put in my own version of the speech as pertaining to the case that I covered. Atticus wanted the jury to give just the slightest sliver of respect to Tom, and that was what I wanted my jury to do for Trayvon. I wanted my jury to think in Trayvon's shoes for a moment. I wanted them to not discriminate against Trayvon and to convict the killer because of his crime, not because of his skin color. I decided to go contrary to the book on this, not only because it was something I would really like to see happen in real life, but also, more importantly, I wanted to put an obvious emphasis on the fact that not all men go with the crowd. I wanted to show an example of what should have happened instead of what should not have happened. Atticus had a theory that all people have good in them, and that they can use this good to fight against any and all kinds of evils, including the evil of seeing only the outside and not looking in. To answer this, I'm going to refer to quotes in the story. After Atticus gives Jem and Scout air rifles, he warns them that it is a, quote, sin to kill a mockingbird, unquote. They ask Miss Monty about this, and she tells them that it's a sin because they do not, quote, do one thing but sing their hearts out for us, unquote. They only do good. In other words, they are innocent. The mockingbird is used as a recurring motif in the story to symbolize innocence and victims of injustice throughout the book.